Hi, today I'm going to explain three things: respiration, glycolysis, and fermentation. Respiration is a process of taking oxygen and glucose and turning them into ATP, or energy for the body. We need energy for many things. For example, you just saw that guy running. There are three phases to cellular respiration: glycolysis, the Krebs cycle, electron transport chain, ETC. Glycolysis is a series of chemical reactions in the cytoplasm of a cell that breaks down the glucose and molecules of pyruvic acid. Glycolysis is a series of chemical reactions in the cytoplasm of a cell that break down the glucose into two molecules of pyruvic acid. In the process, 4 ATP molecules are produced and 2 ATP molecules are used. This net gain is 2 ATP molecules. After this process has occurred, we go to an intermediate stage. This intermediate stage, following glycolysis, the pyruvic acid moves into the mitochondria, where it undergoes a series of chemical reactions that cause it to lose one CO2 molecule. The intermediate product combines with coenzyme A to form acetyl-CoA. Now, this brings us to the citric acid cycle, or the Krebs cycle, a series of reactions that breaks down acetyl-CoA to form one molecule of ATP, 3 molecules of NADH, 1, 2, 3, and 1 molecule of FADH2, right there. CO2 is a byproduct of the Krebs cycle. We don't use it, plants use it. When we breathe out, it comes out. And you can see that in the diagram here. This brings us to the electron transport chain. This is a series of proteins embedded in the mitochondria membrane, similar in idea to plant cells. So we have now generated FADH2 and NADH, and they carry electrons to the electron transport chain. They go down the chain to the final electron acceptor, which is oxygen. The oxygen then bonds to hydrogen to form H2O, or water. The ETC produces 36 ATP molecules. Here's where we get most of our ATP for our body. But when oxygen is not present, a process called fermentation occurs. So fermentation is a process that follows glycolysis when oxygen is not present. There are two types of fermentation. Lactic acid and alcoholic fermentation. Lactic acid fermentation, under anaerobic or oxygen not present conditions, the Krebs cycle and ETC cannot happen. 2 molecules of pyruvate uses NADH to form 2 molecules of lactic acid. Now, why do we care about that happening? Because when that happens, NAD+ is released, which allows glycolysis to continue happening. And if you remember, glycolysis is important to continue happening so that we can continue getting a net gain of 2 ATP so we can continue using our muscles. We can continue running like the example I showed. This lactic fermentation does yield ATP. Not as much as if there were a reaction with oxygen previously, but it does yield ATP. Alcoholic fermentation, used by yeast cells, produces CO2 and ethyl alcohol. It yields 2 ATP. Now, this is not a lot, but 2 is better than none. Yeast is used in bread. The CO2 would cause little air bubbles. and so on to cause the bread to spread apart and basically rise.